If you are a person who wants to be of some influence, whether that's on social media, at your workplace, at your school, in your child's school, in your church group, anything, if you want to have some leadership position or influence, you will have to put yourself out there. And that will mean that you have to deal with some negativity because it is simply impossible that when you put yourself out there, that 100% of people will agree with you and your ideas. Even Mother Teresa doesn't have 100% approval rating.
Hey, everybody. We've had some of the most incredible guests coming to you these past couple of months. The amount of expertise and knowledge on these cutting edge topics is something we really hope that you enjoy. And if you do, it would make a huge difference to us if you could rate, review, and subscribe the podcast. It helps us to get more guests, better experts, and talk about all of the things that are really important to you. So give us a love, give us a lot of love, and don't forget to subscribe so you get all our new episodes. Welcome back to the Thick Thighs Save Lives podcast. Today I have a unbelievably special guest for you. Dr. Tiffany Moon is a board certified anesthesiologist. I practice that a lot. It's a weird one, Tiffany. So I was like, you know what? We're not going to just screw up in the first 30 seconds. She's an entrepreneur, a keynote speaker, a mother of twins, and she just gave birth to a third baby book. She is the author of the upcoming book, Joy Prescriptions: How I Learned to Stop Chasing Perfection and Embrace Connection. Congratulations, first and foremost. It's a thing to be a mom and write a book and be an anesthesiologist, and
All the things.
you're amazing.
Oh, so we're not upcoming. We are out. The baby is born.
Baby's
The book is out. It just came out, oh gosh, 2 weeks ago. The time in my head is, the other day I said something about like, oh, that was a year or two ago. And my husband was like, that was 6 years ago. And I was like, oh geez, was it? So my sense of time is a little inaccurate, but the book is out. And I hit USA Today #1 in biography and self-help, which makes me so happy because when people ask me to describe Joy Prescriptions, I said it's a memoir with a self-help angle. So,
And you hit #1 in both of those categories. Unbelievable. Congratulations. The book is absolutely fantastic. And it is just a small part of your incredibly inspiring journey, as you have already made a lot of history by being the first doctor and the first generation Asian American to join Bravo's Real Housewives franchise. You were on the Real Housewives of Dallas, and you're also a business owner, 50 peer-reviewed publications, one of D Magazine's best doctors. You're on the board for anesthesiology. I mean, the amount of things. So here's where I got to go with this. We're saying that we've stopped chasing perfection, Tiffany, but I see a lot of examples that we are still recovering. No, I'm joking. I want to know about your personal journey, all of these amazing accolades, and how they have led you into this space where you're going, wait a minute, perfection maybe isn't the goal.
yeah, so let me explain myself because I do get that a lot. People are like, "Oh, you wrote a whole book whose subtitle is like How I Overcame Perfectionism, but then here you come looking pretty perfect." And I'm like, "No, no, 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 no. Let me explain. Give me a chance. I will show you how imperfect I am." But in my previous life, when I was trying to be perfect, it held me back from taking a lot of opportunities because I was always afraid of like, oh, what will people think? Or I should just stay in my lane, which was to be a mom and to be an anesthesiologist. That was the lane I knew I performed well in. And so I would never try anything new because I didn't want to look like a fool. So I had no hobbies. I wouldn't, people would ask me to speak at something and I would always decline. I'd be like, oh my God, public speaking's the worst. And slowly I started to change my mindset with the help of a therapist and a coach into like coming out of a black and white film and going into full color and taking advantage of all of life's opportunities and not playing small. And that shift in mindset away from trying to be perfect actually led me to take new opportunities, such as the Real Housewives of Dallas, such as writing a book, such as becoming a content creator on social media. Um, but I will tell you, like, I will slowly slip back into my ways and I'll catch myself like editing a reel for 30 minutes, that's a 30-second reel and making every transition perfect and all this stuff. And these days, honestly, I have a rule with my team. If it's 80% good, just send it out because we focus on so much stuff and the vast majority of people don't even notice. And so to get from that 80% to 100%, which is ideally what I would like, takes so much time and energy that we just send out work at like a B minus level. And that allows us to get more work done because we're not focused on making everything perfect. And guess what? Like most of the time, no one even notices.
I am so glad that you have said that so succinctly and so perfectly. And I think it's really digestible. We have a phrase that I use at my company, which is ready, fire, aim. Because if you continue to stay in the aim, often we don't get it done. And I know that this happens it's a really common occurrence, especially with women who feel that this perfectionism tendency is holding them back from accomplishing the things they really want. But I think it's really a great reframe to put it in that, yeah, but you're just trying to stay comfortable though, aren't you, sis? Because perfectionism is a little bit of an excuse to stay in your lane that you feel comfortable and not explore all the aspects of yourself.
Yes, I agree completely.
I want to talk to you about your background. You have mentioned before that culturally you feel there's a significant tie between your achievements and the way you were brought up and your culture. And I want to give you a second to talk a little bit about your background and how that maybe played into some of your struggles in that area.
Yeah, I am an immigrant to this country. I moved here when I was 6 years old, not speaking any English. And I grew up in a household that put the American dream on a pedestal. My parents always reminded me that they came to America in order to give me the chance for a better life and that they were sacrificing, moving away from their families and having to learn a new language because they knew that if I stayed in China, that there would be this proverbial ceiling that I would reach, and they wanted me to do better than that. So I felt the immense pressure of that on my shoulders to do well, which generally meant getting good grades, as a kid, and then as an adult, making good money and having a 401k. Like these were the metrics by which I thought you built a successful life. That's what I was taught, and that's what was ingrained in me. And never was there any speak of creativity or curiosity or exploration. It was sort of like, this is the path. You go to school, Ivy League, best programs. My dad lived and died by this thing called the US News and World Report. Like, I mean, that was like his Bible. You get a good job, you get a 401k, you raise kids. Like it was a very set, defined path. And as I became older into my 30s and now I'm in my 40s, I was like, what if that's not all I want to do? Like, what if that's not enough for me? And at first, I was afraid to even speak this because I was like, oh my God, look, like I'm a doctor. I have these beautiful children. I have this wonderful house, a loving husband. Like, who am I to sit down and be like, oh, it's not enough? Like, what? You want more? Like, people would die to have your life. And like, here you are, like saying it's not enough for you. Like, you need to calm down, sister. And these were the thoughts that I was going through in my head. But the fact of the matter is, I wanted more. I wanted to do something outside of medicine and motherhood. I wanted more laughter in my life. I wanted more creativity in my life. And you know, one day I was like, wow, no one's going to bring me those things if I don't go out and get them. I can't just sit here and be like, wow, I wish, somebody would make me laugh. Like I really had to take the bull by the horns, if you will.
Wow. I mean, that realization that no one was going to bring it to you and the bravery to say, no, no, I do deserve more, because it is a brave act to say, this isn't fulfilling and I know I deserve more. And I just think that those are two things that we're really going to, like, all of our audience can understand that from different angles. Um, Perfectionist tendencies, extremely success driven. What made you want to appear on a reality show like The Real Housewives? Because there's nothing, in my opinion, there's no feeling of less being in control than being exposed in that way. So what made you go that route?
Yeah, that was right around the time that I was having my midlife crisis when I was like, is this all I'll ever do? Is this all I ever will be? Bravo had asked me to be on the show for several years and I had declined. And so the year that I actually did participate was the third time that they had asked me. And I think in some ways, like maybe they just broke me down or my curiosity got the best of me. But the filming for the show for one season is only 12 weeks. And I was like, you know what? I can do anything for 12 weeks. Like, why not give it a try? Right. And in many ways, it was exposure therapy for me, meaning that I was so scared of what other people thought. And if somebody didn't like me, I would try to convince them otherwise. And going on Real Housewives was like blowing all that wide open. I mean, all of a sudden, every single move I make, every outfit I wear is up for public scrutiny and opinion. The Bravo pages had nice things and not nice things to say about me. And it kind of taught me that, like, oh wow, other people's opinions of me actually have nothing to do with me. You hear that all the time, or you see it through social media or whatever, but until you go through something like that and experience it for yourself and learn firsthand, and you're like, oh wow, like people would say the most awful things, like my voice was annoying, I was ugly. They were like, how many times is she going to mention that she's a doctor? Like, we get it already, and then other people would take the exact same thing and have something good to say about it. And so then you just realize, like, oh wow, no matter what I do, some people are going to like it and some people are not, because it was the same thing that was filmed. People didn't see two sides. And then it kind of makes you realize, like, I should just be me, because no matter what, there are going to be people who don't agree and dislike me. And you know what? That's okay. I think we live in a society where we forget to teach our children that not everyone has to be your friend. You need to be cordial and polite and considerate to everyone you meet, but you do not need to be besties with everyone. You're allowed to disagree. You're allowed to disagree respectfully and hold your opinions. You know what I mean? I think nowadays everyone's either like, oh, are you in or are you out? Like, everything is so polarizing. And the fact of the matter is, life is not in black and white. Life is in many shades of gray. And really, I would say Real Housewives is what taught me about that.
I mean, when you think about putting yourself out there, you think about, like, what's the absolute worst that can happen? And you just described it. People would see you and say they didn't like you. That would be the worst thing. So then it happens and you go like, oh, well, I guess still here. I'm still nothing. My house didn't collapse. Like, no, they didn't take away anyone I loved. Like, I'm still actually here. And I think that is such a brave act to say, like, I'm just gonna go ahead and run at the worst that could possibly happen and see if I can make it. And you did. And not only that, but you realized people seeing the same clip, taking it two different ways, really means that it only has to do with their perception and what they're coming into the situation with, nothing really to do with you.
Exactly.
Thank you so much for listening to our podcast. But you got to know, we are able to bring you this incredible content each week and talk to you about all of the pressing matters in health and fitness because of our successful TTSL workout program.
We have incredible coaches, movement demos, and just different cycles all the time. So we take the thinking out of your training every day.
If you would like to join us, please go to ttsldaily.com and pick out your package. You are going to love every day of fitness. You talk about a moment in your book when you realized that you really wanted to change the direction of your life and what was fulfilling to you. And you talk about an event in the park with your daughter. Can you bring us to that moment?
Yeah, this was back when I was working full time as an academic anesthesiologist with administrative roles. So I would frequently be working from home, while the kids were napping, or after I put them to bed at 8 p.m., I'd get back on the computer from like 8:30 to 10:30 and do work. But while the kids were awake and I was home, I tried to spend as much time with them as I could, because generally speaking, on weekdays, I did not see my children in the mornings because I left for the hospital at 6:30 and they didn't wake up till 7. So I just did not see them in the mornings, which was sad to me because in the mornings was always when they were the least cranky, like the most happy as babies, as you know. And by the time I get home at like 5 p.m., they're kind of like cranky pants. You know what I mean? Um, and so I didn't see them in the morning. And then I got off work generally between 4 to 5 p.m., sometimes 6, and they go to sleep at 8. Right. So I'm spending like 2 hours a day with my kids on weekdays. And then, of course, on weekends, more if I wasn't on call. So I took them to the park, and Maddie, the younger twin, um, slipped and fell as toddlers do. And so I rushed over to her to soothe her and make her feel better. And she was crying and yelled for my nanny's name. She was like, "No, I want Sandy." And I was like, "Oh, I'm the worst mom in the whole world. My kid doesn't even want me to soothe her when she's been hurt. She's screaming for the nanny." And I was like, "Oh, this is not right. Like, this is not the way I want to live my life." And I called we packed up, went home. I called my husband. By then I was crying too. I told him the whole thing, and he's like, "It's okay, He's like, "It's not a reflection of how she feels of you as a mother. Like, she's 2 years old. She doesn't know these things. She's literally just crying for the person who takes care of her the most." Right? Like, you have to look at it from her standpoint. And I was like, "No, I am looking at it from her standpoint, but it's so sad that the person who takes care of her the most is not me." And he was like, "Well, you can't do it all, babe. You cannot be this high-powered academic anesthesiologist running these clinical trials, training residents and med students, working 60 hours a week, and change every diaper and do every feeding and whatever. There's not enough time in the day." He said, "So you need to figure it out. Either you cut back at work and, change every diaper and do every feeding, or you come to terms with the fact that it's okay that she is screaming for the nanny right now. Like, in a world where you're doing a million other things, like, that is not the worst thing in the world. She is still being taken care of. Like, you feel guilty, you feel bad, but actually, like, the children are fine." And I was like, "Are they?" I was like, "I think they're going to end up in therapy when they're adults and talk shit about me to their therapist." And he
We
was
all
like,
are.
"Well," yeah, I was like, "Well, that's what I do for my mother. I mean, like, I've spent $20,000 in therapy bills. Like, what do you want?" So that's when I think the seed got planted that I needed to cut back at work. But it's not like I could just go to my boss and be like, "Oh yeah, I'm not coming in anymore." Like, I always finish things that I start. And I had several clinical trials that I was running. So I had to like slowly, wean off of some responsibilities. That was in 2016, the park incident. And then in 2020, gosh, it took a long time. I actually had the balls to ask my boss to go part time, which when I asked him, it was 1 day a week. Like I made this big stink about 1 day a week, you know? But back then in my mind, it was very black and white. I had seen some of the women in my department go part time. And after that, I never saw them get promoted or put up for leadership positions or committee heads, things like that. It was kind of not said out loud, but understood that these women were what's on the quote unquote mommy track. And people kind of didn't take them seriously after that, like, to be honest. Like I didn't take some of them seriously because it's like you got relegated to this like different pool of people at work. And so you saw the men, get raises and get leadership positions and be nominated for committees and things. And then all the women in the mommy track would really just clock in, clock out, do their work and go home, which perhaps is what everyone wanted. But at that time, I had worked too hard for my career to just be relegated to the mommy track.
I think you're just hitting on so many things that every single woman struggles with when they are thinking about balancing a career and motherhood and hobbies and fitness and nutrition and friendships. It's just this unbelievable, like, teetering act. And sometimes, you know, one of the things that I heard you quoted as saying and really resonated with me was, I don't believe in balance, I believe in prioritization. Tell me what you mean by this.
Yeah, I speak at conferences nationally, and sometimes people will give me a topic to speak about. And one of them was like work life balance, how I managed to do it all. And I called the conference organizer and I was like, can I change the title of the talk that you gave me? Because I hate this talk. And she said, sure, of course. So I hate this notion of work life balance because the word balance in and of itself implies that there is some balance to be had and there is none. So we can use prioritization, we can use the word integration, whatever you want. But there's a famous commencement speech by Shonda Rhimes, who makes like Bridgerton, Grey's Anatomy. I mean, she's like a badass. I freaking love her. And she was saying, when you see me here giving me this or giving this commencement speech, or you see me coming out with a new show on Netflix or whatever, that means that I'm not doing something else, that I'm missing my daughter's ballet recital, that I'm not doing this other thing. And so I think in our minds, we need to come to terms with the fact that I am only one person. I can only do one thing at a time. When I was working full time and my children were infants, I had a full time nanny so that I could go to work. And in between surgeries, I would check the video cams from my phone and see if she was like feeding them and one was crying and why wasn't she picking that one up immediately and all this stuff. And I felt this immense guilt that I wasn't the one home with my infants doing that. And then I would, be very micromanaging to my nanny and things like that. And the point is, I was neither here nor there. Whenever I was at work, I felt bad that I wasn't with my girls. And then whenever I was with my girls on the weekends, my work emails were piling up and my grants weren't being written and, deadlines were looming and I would feel bad about that. So it's like I felt shitty all the time. Like, just seriously, I just felt like I was letting someone down all the time. And then, with the help of my therapist and my coach and lots of self help books and podcasts, I changed my mindset. And I was like, look, whatever I'm doing, I am going to be there present 100% doing that thing. If I am with my children, being silly, rolling a ball around, playing hide and go seek at the park, that is what I am doing. And I am not thinking about work. I'm not going to guilt myself because I can only do one thing at a time, and worrying or feeling guilty for not doing something else like doesn't actually help. In fact, it raises my cortisol and makes me anxious and hinders me. Then when I'm at work, I don't check the nanny cam. I mean, now my kids are 10, right? So I really don't check it. But like, even when they were a little bit younger, I was like, I'm not going to check it. I am going to trust that the person who I have hired and background checked and trained and, everything is taking adequate care of my children. And I am going to be here 100% present for my patient that's on the operating room table, or my medical students that I'm giving a lecture to, or whatever it is that I'm doing. And so what I try to train my clients, because I do coaching, to do is I say, like, put on a different hat. Okay, now put on a different hat. Like, put on your mom hat. Now put on your doctor hat. Now put on your wife hat. And whatever hat you're wearing at that moment, like, that's it. You're just doing that thing, and don't worry about this other hat. And I don't know, for some reason, this like hat trick analogy helps me conceptualize that I can only do one thing at a time, and that I shouldn't feel guilty for all the other things I'm not doing.
I I love that analogy, and I got an immediate visualization of the fact that you can have as many hats as you want to choose from, which is a very freeing feeling. I don't have to have just two hats because I have to wear them at the same time. I can have like a ton of hats in my closet, and I can, if I only wear them one at a time, I can choose, but I cannot pile 16 hats on top of each other and then go walking around without them falling over.
Yes, exactly.
I love that visualization. I think that it's it's very hard in practice, but so many people that I hear from that are working on being present in the moment and working on that through multiple modalities, including, um, like sitting in meditation and just like working on their five sense. Where am I? What am I seeing? What am I smelling? Like being there present. And I hear from so many people that it is a game changer. And that's what I'm hearing from you, is just the thought of being in a place and not having your mind be in another place.
Yeah, because it doesn't help. It actually hinders us. Then you're neither here nor there.
Which is, yeah, I mean, let's do none of the things well instead of
which
like,
which is what I was doing before, actually.
hmm
Is none of it,
hmm
and I felt shitty all the time, right? Sometimes it's a feeling. And so now, when I spend time with my kids, I'm like, oh, I was a great mom today. I didn't put on my doctor hat at all today, because it's Saturday and I wasn't on call, but like, that's okay. Like, that's where the balance comes in, actually.
I love that. Um, Being a TV personality, you have had your share of criticism, and you talked a little bit about how sort of difficult it was in anticipation. But after it all kind of came in and the worst thing happened, and some people didn't like you, oh my god, the worst thing has happened. um what are your feelings now on receiving criticism from strangers online? And how do you take that, absorb it, and keep it moving without that just weighing you down?
Oh gosh, it's a full circle. I used to, read all the comments and like cry about them, but now a lot of times I don't even read the comments. Um, this is what I will say. If you are a person who wants to be of some influence, whether that's on social media, at your workplace, at your school, in your child's school, in your church group, anything, if you want to have some leadership position or influence, you will have to put yourself out there. And that will mean that you have to deal with some negativity, because it is simply impossible that when you put yourself out there, that 100% of people will agree with you and your ideas. Even Mother Teresa doesn't have 100% approval rating. And the president of the United States barely has a majority, like just over 50% approval rating. So you can be a leader and not please everyone, but you must come to terms with the fact that people are not going to like you and they are not going to say nice things about you. So the way I wrote about it in Joy Prescriptions is, imagine that you play small, that you've never put yourself out there, and you have about a sphere of influence of 100-ish people, right? Like these are your friends, family, close people. You know about 100 people. Let's say 10% of them just do not like you. They think you're boring. They think your ideas are crazy. They don't like your fashion sense. They don't like your haircut. Who cares? Okay. But they just do not care for you. Okay, now you're putting yourself out there. You've become PTA president. You've been nominated at work to lead a committee, something like that. And your sphere of influence grows to 1,000 people instead of 100. Now, 10% of them or 100 people don't like you and they have something to say about it, and you are going to feel like all of a sudden everyone hates me. Like that is the immediate conclusion that our brain will jump to. I shouldn't have nominated, I shouldn't have accepted this position, I shouldn't have started posting on socials, all the things. Your brain, because your brain is trying to protect you from fear and change and newness and all that stuff. But the fact of the matter is, it's still 10%. It just is an absolute larger number. Now it's 100 versus 10 people. So it seems like, oh my God, everyone hates me. But it's the same exact percentage. But on the flip side of this, now you're influencing 900 people positively, or the potential to be positive. And those people may not have known you earlier, back when your sphere was 100. Right? Like they didn't know about you. They didn't know you existed. You had no potential to actually influence these people. So if you want to get to the 900, you're gonna have to take the 100. That is simply the way of life. But if you conceptualize it in that the ratio is likely the same and you can deal with it, and most people's opinions come through a lot of interpretation of things that have happened in their life and not necessarily a reflection of you, I think in your mind that will help you to push forward instead of shrinking back. Because there's two types of people. The kind that when their sphere increases and they see this new negativity, they're like, oh no, just kidding. I don't want all that. And they go back to their 100, right? And then there's the people that's like, no, this is just a negativity bias. I am causing so much positivity for this group over here. I can handle the negativity. It's fine. I'm going to grow my sphere now to 10,000 people, 100,000 people, 1,000,000 people. Right? And which one of those two people do you want to be? Do you want to keep growing, or do you want to shrink back because somebody said something mean about you?
Oh, it's so true. And when you put it in those terms, it seems so obvious that the influence and the positive impact is so well worth it. But there's just so many studies on the negativity bias in the brain and how much more likely you are to remember the negative comments as compared to the positive comments. And these are evolutionary, adaptations that were like to make sure you didn't eat the bad berries. Remember those bad berries. They
Yeah,
made
those
you
ones that
sick
made
on.
you vomit for 4 hours after you ate those. Don't eat those again, stupid.
So it seems like it's a great adaptation, but when we take it into a different context, like a more modern world with social media, we do tend to focus and hone in on some of those more negative comments, even when there's 15 positive comments.
Yeah.
And so I love to hear you, number one, say, like, I'm not in the comments anymore. You know what? I don't need to read everyone. And I also really love to hear you say, like, breaking this down into raw numbers and saying, wait a minute, but actually it's 20-1. So even though my brain wants to remember that one that said I'm an idiot, I'm totally stupid, and I'm the worst, there's actually 20 saying, like, love what you do, so glad I found you.
Right. Right.
I,
And think about that one person. I mean, depending on what they say. Like some of the comments that are just so full of vitriol and hate, and I'm just like, I feel so bad for you. Like you
right.
must have such a miserable life that you would come on my page where I am trying to be funny and, uplifting, and leave such a nasty comment. Like God, you must be going through a lot, Like I hope you get well soon, sir.
Oh, always, sir.
No, sometimes it'll be a ma'am. Of course, a ma'am with an unidentifiable, photo of, like, her dog or a flower, and then, like,
Always,
a Bible verse or something, and I'm like,
always.
"Well, that is not very Christian-like of you." Um, so, again, you have to think the problem with social media, the good and the bad part of social media, is that it equalizes everyone. Like, everyone with a screen name is, like, the same, right? And the fact of the matter is we're not, right? Like, a person who is uneducated and has certain biases in their heart and leaves a hateful comment telling me that I need to go back to China. I'm sorry, but like, we are not the same. Therefore, I disregard your comment. Like, I literally disregard you as a person, which sounds mean, but think of like social media, your page that you've, carefully curated and feed into. That's your house that you've built, right? You don't get to come into my house and be an asshole, or you can see yourself out. You know what I mean? So you don't get to come on my page and be mean to me. Like, block and delete is so easy to do. Like, I don't even hesitate. And now I have a social media manager, but I told her, like, if you see anything even like slightly mean, delete and block them.
No second chances, because you know what? You don't get to come into my house and criticize the curtains. Get the hell out. See yourself out,
Yes,
bitch.
yes, exactly. Go work on your own house and get out of mine.
Oh, I love that. I absolutely love that. So, you already know we make the best workout gear, but one of our best products, our highest rated product on our website, is actually our collagen. If you have not heard about Glow Up by CVG, you are missing out. There is almost 700 five-star reviews on this product because it is such an amazing supplement. Actually, looking at it today, there are only 2 one-stars that were meant to be 5 stars. They love the product, they hit the wrong amount of stars. This is one of our most popular products for a reason. It dissolves like no other collagen. It's type 1 and 3. You're gonna have healthier skin, better joint mobility. Everything about this collagen makes it easy to put into your daily routine. So if you haven't tried Glow Up, get on cvg.com and make sure to add it to cart today. It's our best product. In every field that you have entered, there have been barriers that have been unique to you and that you've had to overcome to get your seat at the table. Being a woman in medicine, being an Asian American on TV, a first generation immigrant entrepreneur. These are all barriers that many other people who are accomplishing these things do not have to see when they are on their road. And I want to ask you how these challenges have affected the way that you approach things now, having been having seen these barriers that just many other people did not have to overcome.
Yeah, I try not to think of it that way, because then you can get a little like, woe is me.
Mhm.
The thing I like to say is that, like, we don't all start on the same starting line in life. Like, sorry, some people start like 2 meters back, some people start 2 meters front. Like, my last name is not Kennedy. Like, I don't have parents that, have a library on some Ivy League university named after them, and I kind of, trust fund and set up. Like, I came to America and learned English when I was 6 years old. My family was poor. We clipped coupons in order to get groceries on the table every week. But at the same time, like, other people have it even worse. You know what I mean? Other people dealt with immense, physical, sexual abuse, parents that were not capable of raising them, foster system, things like that. So it's like, I always say, like, do not compare yourself to other people because it's a zero sum game. There's actually a chapter in my book about this. And I say that comparison is the thief of joy. Because you always like look at someone and someone else will always be doing better and someone else will always be doing worse. So in many ways, all the challenges that I've overcome, like, coming to America, learning a new language, being raised in a, poor, austere environment, I think have raised me to be who I am right now. Like maybe I wouldn't work as hard as I do now if I didn't have to see my parents like scrimp and save. My dad was a student. He came to America on a student visa. So you're not supposed to technically work because he's going to school full time. But we were like so poor. Our whole family lived in a 1 bedroom apartment, and my room was the living room. So he found some Chinese restaurant that let him work under the table, and they paid him $2 an hour cash to wash dishes in the back of the restaurant. So he would go to school full time during the day and study for his exams, and then like go do 4 hours at this Chinese buffet restaurant washing dishes in the back for $2 an hour. I mean, this was in 1990, but still. And I just saw my parents like struggling so much and saving, and then donating a portion of it back to their church. And I'm like, wait a second, like we're so poor, we can't be affording to give money to the church. And my parents are like, no matter how poor you are, like you give money back to the church. There are people less fortunate than you. Like look at us, we're all healthy, we have each other, like we have this apartment, we're eating food right now. And I was like, oh, like I was always sort of like, woe is me, we don't have enough, I don't have new clothes, the girls are going to the mall to like buy clothes after school and I can't go, kind of, always like down on myself. And my parents would always remind me that like someone always has it way worse than you. So I've kind of gotten out of this mindset of like comparing to other people and just like being grateful for what I have. But that doesn't mean I'm not going to like strive for goals and just be like, oh, it's, whatever. Like, no, I'm still hungry. I'm still trying to reach my goals, but I never compare myself to other people.
That's it. I mean, they sound absolutely amazing. What did they think of the show?
Oh, they were pissed. My dad was He was like, "You're an embarrassment to our family. Like, what are the aunties at church going to say?" Everything in Chinese culture is like, what are the Chinese aunties at church going to say? I don't know why that is the barometer, but it's like, oh, so and so son got into Princeton. So and so son's company just went public and he's worth like $500 million now. It's like, whatever the church aunties say is like, that is your fate. And the church aunties were like, oh my god, did you hear like Tiffany's gonna go on this TV show? It's like very contentious, all about women fighting, like very embarrassing. And there's this phrase in Chinese, in Mandarin, called 丢脸, which is literally lose face. And my dad was like, you're losing face for our family. Like that is what he told me in Chinese. And I was like, well, shit.
Oh my God. Do you think that did they watch?
I don't think they watched, but like people talked about it, but I don't
Yeah.
think they sat and watched.
I am just in awe of your bravery to be authentic. It's truly just inspiring, the fact that there just doesn't seem to be an area in which now, and thinking about your upbringing and the struggles that you may have had with perfectionism, the bravery that you exhibit now really does give me hope that it can come full circle, that no matter where you are, you can say at any point, I'm going to live the way that I want to live, and I'm going to live authentically, no matter what the auntie, everybody has the aunties, and sometimes they're just in your mind, which those are the worst aunties
Yes,
because
the meanest aunties are the ones in my brain, for sure.
um, I wanted to ask you about you've had several amazing people read and review your book. Um, Barbara from Shark Tank called your book a roadmap for anyone looking to take charge of their own happiness. First of all, what a review. And secondly, how do we start if we feel like we aren't sure yet what happiness actually looks like for us? A lot of women are caught up in a people pleasing mentality where they're not sure the line between their happiness and other people's happiness. And I'm wondering, when we're starting on this road, how do we know whether it's making us happy or somebody else?
I always say, like, go back to what brings you joy, like Marie Kondo, when she said, when you're cleaning out your closet, like, pick up an item, like, does it bring you joy? And if not, like, get rid of it. That's the same with people too. Like, when you think of a person and like having dinner with them, does that bring you joy or does it bring you dread? Because trust me, a few years in my life ago, there were people that I'm like, oh, I got to go have dinner with this person. And my husband was like, why? I'm like, I don't know. So I did a little bit of a friendship audit. I Marie Kondoed my closet and I Marie Kondoed my life. And I totally get what you're saying, where like your happiness blurs into other people's happiness, because as women, I think much of our happiness derives from doing things for other people. Like as a mom, if my kids are happy, then I'm happy. But then I'm also like, but what about me? Like, what truly brings me joy? For me, that's like going outside, working out, playing with my dog, reading, taking naps, going to women's conferences and like meeting other badass women and like networking with them, dancing, listening to really foul 90s hip hop and R&B.
Let's
Like I
go.
am just in the carpool line like jamming out. Like
Yes.
there are so many F-bombs being dropped. And then as it's time to pick up the kids, I like turn the radio down and I'm like, "Hi Susan, how are you?" Yeah, and a minute ago I was like, "Fuck this bitch." Yeah. So you know what I'm saying? Like these are the things that bring me joy. And I think the people who know me and interact with me in my current day-to-day life see the joy. And the joy is contagious because they see that you stopped living your life small and putting yourself out there and dealing with the haters and doing it anyway. And then they say, well, if she can do it, maybe I can too.
And it really radiates off someone when they decide to make that switch over. Um, and it is contagious. I totally agree with you. When someone is living authentically, I think it shows from a mile away. Um, have you had trouble? We talked about, the hats. You can only wear one at a time. You have a mom hat, you have a nap hat, you have a woman that likes to go dancing hat. These ha- I'm thinking specifically about the women that I talk to with regards to fitness. When they feel like fitness takes away from their family time. They have set amount of time with their family and they feel guilty for engaging in a fitness routine, even though we talk about, wait a minute, your family loves you, they want you around for a long time, this is important to your longevity and your health. But how do you balance the guilt that might come when you are doing something for yourself and not for someone else?
I mean, you just have to get rid of it. This is a mindset problem. Guilt comes from the societal construct that you should be able to do everything. And as soon as you decide that that's a societal construct and you're not going to believe that anymore, then you don't feel guilty. It's like one day you flip the light switch on and you're like, "Oh, I'm taking care of myself. I am investing in my own mental and physical health, which better enables me to be there as the backbone of our family and take care of my children, my husband, the household, the pets. Like mom is the backbone of any house. I stand by that. And if mom's not doing well, like if you are not eating well, if you're not moving your body, if you're depressed, if you're sedentary, like that trickles down into every other aspect of the house. So when you're going to yoga, going for a run, lifting weights at the gym, meditating, going to therapy, which is an hour a week, that is an investment in yourself, which then is an investment in everyone benefits from this. So the whole guilt thing, like we just got to get rid of that. Like I have no secret solution or trick for you, but to simply say that like you must believe that what you're doing is good for you and therefore good for your family, then the guilt just fades away.
Oh, let's go. Double clap for that. What has been the most challenging? You've done a really lot of challenging things. You have graduated medical school. You have written a book. You're a mom to twins. Was that on purpose? Girl.
Sort of. No, not really. We didn't do IVF, but I was taking fertility treatments.
Girl,
Yeah.
that's a big ask.
Y-
Twins is a big.
yeah.
So of all the things, you're an entrepreneur, you've started a business, you're huge on social media. Of all the things, what was the most difficult?
That is such a good question. I don't even think I've been asked that. Um, I think overall the most difficult was learning to love myself for who I was and not what I accomplish, which I know sounds counterintuitive because you're like, well, you've accomplished all these things. But I used to accomplish things like for the sake of accomplishing them. And now the things that I pour into are things that I actually want to be doing. Like I only go to the operating room 3 days a week because I don't want to be there for five. I'll never work 5 days a week anymore because that allowed me the time to write my book and to go to the lunch with my kids at their school and to go to Pilates on Fridays. You know what I mean? Like I've reconstructed my life to be the way that I want it to be. But I was only able to do that after I figured out that my self worth is not the sum of my achievements.
Oh dear. Oh dear.
That
Did you
cost
guys
about
want
$20,000 worth of
to
therapy, by the way.
Did you guys want to play that back? That's $20,000 worth of advice right there. My self-worth is not the sum of my achievements. Oh my God. That
Yeah,
really just out right in the turn right in
yeah,
here. Oh man. Oh
yeah.
man.
I know.
Ooh. All right. Okay. All right. I'm going to let that sink in and I'm going to think about it for many, many days. And then I'm going to maybe mantra it a little bit because what a powerful place to be if that's really true.
Yeah,
Like, how much power do you have in your life and in its direction and all the happiness and joy that comes from it if you truly believe that you are so much more than just what you simply have been able to accomplish?
right.
Tiffany, this has been so unbelievably inspiring. I have loved talking to you. You guys have to get this book. It is so unbelievable. You have to get the book, but you also really have to follow Tiffany on TikTok because that shit is, if
It's
you like to
unhinged.
laugh,
Yes. But if it doesn't bring you joy, then please unfollow.
no mean comments allowed. We're girls here, okay?
Yeah.
So you come to laugh on Tiffany's TikTok. And you absolutely have to come to be inspired when you read Joy Prescriptions. Tiffany, it's a game changer.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a lot of mindset work, but as soon as the light switch flips, you will live your life differently.
That is everything and anything. I cannot thank you enough for being on with us today. And I want to give you an opportunity to let our audience know all of the places to find you, all of the places to connect with you, because I've already told them they got to get on TikTok. So
Yes, I am on all the social media platforms at Tiffany Moon MD. The name of the book is Joy Prescriptions, and you can buy it anywhere books are sold. And then I have a women's leadership conference in Dallas from November 7th through 9th called Lead Her Summit.
oh, beautiful. Absolutely inspiring work that you're doing. And I cannot thank you enough for sharing it with our audience today.
Thank you for having me.